So we're about to get into this main video about how to pick that right moment to start a business, and I'm really excited about this video. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk to you real quickly and share with you a couple of big updates that I know can help you out. Firstly, we've added an incredible checklist to the Jason Paul Rogers website, where we basically are gonna identify for you how to pick a sector to consolidate. So for all of you who are thinking about getting into this game and making acquisitions, but don't know what sector to pick, what variables to look for, go to the website, put in your name and email, and we're gonna send you over that report. It's super badass, you gotta check it out. That's number one. Number two is for those of you who wanna go even deeper, we have something we're cooking up that you'll also be able to see on the website. So check that out as well at jasonpaulrogers.com. And now let's get into the main video. Hey, what's going on? Jason Rogers here, taking a little walk out this evening and wanted to shoot a video for you because I've been receiving the following question a lot in DMs in particular. This question being, hey Jason, when's the perfect time to start, or when's the right time to start? I think most people know there's not a perfect time to start, but I do get the question mainly phrased as, when is the right time to start? And there seems to be a lot of this internal dialogue that potential founders are having about picking that time precisely and correctly to increase the odds of success. And I get the thought process behind it. I find that people who want to start their own businesses, they want to do it the best way possible. I think that's probably why they watch, and maybe you watch my videos, because you want that shortcut, that tip, that insight that can make you a bigger, better success faster. And I respect that. Now, I want to answer that question to you, but first let me show you around here. We got the water out here. It's about 6:30 or 7 o'clock. Summer's turning into fall. Beautiful out here. I'm going to miss this nice, delightful weather. But at any rate, let's get to the question now. So, when's the right time to start? Well, let me tell you a story, and then you'll see the answer become self-evident through the story. I started reaching out to my board member candidates back in last November, so about 9 or 10 months ago now. And I was actually using a Verizon Travel Pass, which is an international calling card. And I was using that because I was making my calls to the board member candidates from Medellin, Colombia. I was calling American board candidates from Medellin, Colombia, where I was living at the time as I was down there learning Spanish. So I was paying $10 every single day that I was making these international calls. And this is no joke, because of the political and criminal conflict that was taking place in Medellin, there was actually a massive spike in violence right at the time in which I was recruiting my board. And I remember making calls from the balcony of my apartment, and I had to go inside on one or two occasions because I heard gunshots literally in the distance, especially when I was making those calls in the evening at say 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time when I was calling on the Pacific time zone. There were gunshots. So I'm going inside my apartment so that it doesn't sound like I'm calling from the equivalent of a hood. You know, I was actually in a nice area in Colombia, but only 5 miles away, there were very tough parts of town. And excuse the restart here, I actually received a call from my board member, one of the board members, and we had about a 45-minute conversation. So the sun's down now. I'm gonna take a seat out here on my balcony and we'll keep talking. But the reason I shared that story about Colombia and about making those calls to the board member candidates from Colombia, and let me get a light on out here, is because it's not like I was ready. It's not like I was ready to really start my business when I started. I mean, I was calling from a violent, crazy, chaotic land. I was using a $10 a day international travel plan. And it's not like I even knew where we were gonna make our acquisitions, what part of the geographic United States we were gonna make our acquisitions. I was figuring that out while I was pitching board member candidates. So at any rate, I had to fly back to Los Angeles to meet with one of the board members who wanted to meet in person before confirming to the board. I went to Los Angeles, he accepted. I then, for a period of time, slept on my grandmother's couch, was bouncing between houses, then I was living in a hotel. At points I was sleeping out of my car when I was traveling across the country looking at different deals, and I was driving for so long that I would literally, just be in the middle of nowhere and get so tired I would just pull off the side of the road in my rental car and knock out for 4 hours, then drive and look at parks and drive and look at parks and get a hotel and drive and look at parks, and just chaos, right? Chaos. And yet, I share all this because it all worked. And it was completely without a true plan. Now, don't get me wrong, there was strategy involved, but it's that the strategy has to morph. It's the idea. Imagine you're a sharpshooter and you have the 5 targets, right? And see, if you're an employee, you're given 5 targets to hit, and if you hit that target, you always get a thumbs up, you always get a kudos, you always get a congratulations. But in the sake of entrepreneurship, in the game of entrepreneurship, you may think that there's 5 targets you need to hit, and maybe there are 5 targets, but those 5 targets might be behind you. So while you're aiming at these 5 targets, the actual 5 targets are in the other direction. And so see, that's the thing, is people think they need to have this perfect game plan ahead of time, that they need to have every target perfectly and meticulously lined up because they need to take these 5 shots and then they're going to close their deal. And while of course there's some strategy involved, there are certain variables that are going to be certain for you as you go through the acquisitional process. I can also tell you that there's lots and lots and lots of side steps you're going to have to take, right? People that you think are going to invest in your deal will actually at the last minute have a financial problem. They can no longer invest. Right? A hot deal you think is going to close, you've been aiming at for the last 2 months, at the last minute the seller changes his mind and decides not to sell. That actually almost happened with our deal. Just about 2 weeks before our deal was going to close, the seller since confided in me that he almost decided to just kill the deal. And that was when I was about already 3.5 months into it. So this is the game of entrepreneurship. See, as an employee, traditionally, you really, again, are given clear targets. And if you hit that target, you always get the thumbs up. But in entrepreneurship, you're only given the reward when you get the end result, irrespective of how many shots you had to take. And see, this is the big methodological difference. You're not a sniper in entrepreneurship. You're a bird hunter, where you have the shotgun, the bird spray, or the bird shot, where there's 50 different pieces of the bullet that fly out. And the name of the game isn't to be the most accurate shooter, it's just to make sure that you hit the ultimate objective one time. And so that's really what I would suggest for you. At least it's definitely what's worked for me. And in studying other entrepreneurs who are further along in the game than I am, I would say that that's a pretty common thing for them, is to recognize that their plans almost certainly won't work. It's like you've probably seen on Instagram or on social media, there's a meme that says what people expect success will look like, and it's a straight line from starting point to ending point. Right? What success should look like, or would look like, or I think looks like, and it's a straight line. And then it's what success actually is, and it's this crazy mumbo jumbo that finally ends up over here. But to get from here to here, it was this absurd route. That's really the game for you. So see, as you spend all of this time trying to perfectly map to go from here to here, because you think it's going to be a straight line, and you have your map ready, and you have your jug of water ready, and you have your snacks ready, and you have a full tank of gas, right? Because you think it's going to be a straight line. The true entrepreneur knows it's not going to be a straight line. So let me just get on this crazy path, and I'll ultimately get to the destination sooner. Because while this guy's still planning to make the straight journey, the entrepreneur's already in that crazy weaving chaos. And before you know it, he's actually going to get to the other side, and it will, or she, right? And it will be painful and brutal and difficult and uncomfortable, yet there will be the fruits of success that come along with that. The bigger question becomes, are you willing to dive in? And does it make sense for you, your personality, your ambitions, etc.? For me, it does, and it did. I would have had massive regret had I not started this business. Even if it had failed. I got my head around ahead of time. Even if this business failed, or if I was never able to get the plane off the runway, I was still okay with taking the risk because I knew I would have tons of regret if I didn't start. I was more comfortable with failing than I was with not starting. But that's me. Maybe you're different. I don't know. I don't know you. I would have to talk to you. But if you know yourself well enough to know that I am that entrepreneurial type of individual, I need to take the risk, maybe because you're young, or because you're hungry, or because you realize that you just want to fulfill your potential, or for whatever reason or reasons, if you just know, or maybe your goals are so big and you know that you need to be an entrepreneur to have the private jet or the big Miami Beach house or whatever. If you're the type that just knows you're built to be an entrepreneur, then I sincerely suggest you start right now. And I literally mean right now. But that's only if you really know yourself to be an entrepreneur, that you have to go after it. If you're one of those people that would rather fail than not start and not try, then you really need to start as soon as humanly possible. As soon as humanly possible.